big developments have taken place on the vaccine front in India in the last 48 hours. The first is the nod, the emergency authorization which has been given to Russia's Sputnik V for usage in India. That makes it the third vaccine candidate. And the other big move today is when the Ministry of Health said it would allow the use of foreign-made vaccines in India as well. The criteria for these are those vaccine candidates that have been approved by credible institutions such as the USFDA, the European Medical Agency, and others that have been mentioned by the Ministry of Health. This opens the door to vaccines like the Pfizer BioNTech, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, among others. What is interesting is that the Ministry of Health has also changed its rules or adapted its rules which it had earlier for the number of bridging studies or clinical trials that these foreign-made vaccines would have to undergo in India. It has been shortened now. To understand how soon this pipeline will come into place and how it will help the effort to vaccinate, I am joined now by Dr. N.K. Arora. He is a chair of the COVID subcommittee of NTAGI, that's the National Technical Advisory Group of Immunization in India. Dr. Arora, welcome and thank you so much for speaking with us. Do we know when these two new decisions will start making a difference to the amount of vaccine that we have, to the supply question?
You have asked me two questions. One is about Sputnik, and the second is about opening the doors for those vaccines for which no Indian studies are available. And both these decisions have to be seen in the context of our huge demand for vaccine. In next 5-6 months, that means by August or so, we need to immunize 40 crore Indians. That will be almost 30% of the population. And this would include all more than 45 years and plus frontline workers. Now, although we have a reasonable pipeline of vaccines from Serum Institute and Covaxin, and as we understand, Covaxin is also going to increase its production capacity, plus even the Serum Institute is going to enhance its production capacity in coming weeks and months. But it would always be better because dependence, better it is to have larger number of vaccine manufacturers on the plate at the moment. So first on the line, on this line is Sputnik. Sputnik completed a bridging trial with 1,600 individuals. They completed and they followed them up for a median of 2 months after the second dose. This was looked at by the subject expert committee, and that's how they went through the regular regulatory processes. And we hope that in next couple of weeks, the vaccine would be available to the national government for pushing it into the various immunization pipeline system. So it will certainly ease, and as we hasten our immunization speed, I think this will certainly complement. And the second component is about opening the market or opening the country for some of the new vaccines which you mentioned, like mRNA vaccines or Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So particularly those vaccines which are likely to be manufactured, those are likely to come, and Johnson & Johnson is a very important candidate in that. The Johnson & Johnson has several other advantages. It's a single dose vaccine. So one dose and that takes care. And it is going to be manufactured, at least I'm aware, by one vaccine company. The other thing is that they have been cleared for undertaking the bridging trial. So what you said, I will add a little bit more, that while the national regulator will allow them to enter into the Indian market or give it to the government, whatever the government decides, but concurrently the bridging trial will also be done. So it is not that there will be a bypass of the bridging trial. Those 1,500-1,600 patients, subjects will be completing the thing. In addition, another 100 individuals who will be first given the vaccine, they will be meticulously followed up in the field situation for any adverse events. So two safeguards have been built in. One is the regular one, the other is that first 100 patients will be very closely followed up. So in case there is any unusual safety concern which appears, but most of it, the data will be used from what
Sure.
they have from outside. So it will certainly increase our pipeline. It will increase the menu, and gradually we will start getting that certain vaccines can be put in different parts, and obviously the community will have better option, will have more options for the vaccines to choose. The regarding two other vaccines you mentioned, mRNA vaccines, Pfizer and the Moderna vaccine. These two vaccines may be given an option,
Yes.
but question is whether do they have vaccine spare for the country. As I understand that they have not been able to fulfill.
Yes, you know, that's what I was coming to. Let me just elaborate on that question before you make the point, Dr. Arora, and let me take it together. Now, the Sputnik we know is already being made in India, but as part of export obligations, do we today have any clarity of what is the kind of capacity in terms of million doses per month available in Sputnik for the Indian market? That's part A. And part B, the point you were making, that there is a shortage of vaccines from Pfizer and Moderna the world over. So are they going to even have enough to come into India?
So in fact, we are not I would say asking them to come over. It's not our own mRNA vaccine is going to be in the market in next 3 months or 4 months. So that is one. But I think this is an option, that whether some of the vaccines which have this credible regulator clearance and they would want to enter, but for us, somebody giving us 100,000 vaccines have no meaning. I mean, it is just consumed in 4 hours in a particular state or so. So that is not the purpose. The purpose is to really increase our stock and the pipeline situation. And Johnson and Johnson will be particularly, I think, useful in this, and because they are going to be manufactured. Your question regarding the export commitment of two companies here. One is Sputnik related, and the other is Serum's commitment also to export. So as I understand, Sputnik, 50% of their production will be used here. That is around 400 plus million doses. And the remaining 400 million doses will be for export. But how it actually works out, I am not the right person to answer that. And it will also evolve as manufacturing starts in this country. The initial beginning will be with import of the vaccines. So that is one. And regarding the serum, it will also help us to see that the national commitments are kind of agreed to, and those commitments are fulfilled.
Okay, Dr. Arora, now I want to talk to you a bit about vaccine strategy thus far, and there's been a lot of conversation about why do we have a shortage, did we lose opportunities to ramp up manufacture, in the end of last year when cases were lower, etc. But having said that, now that we're opening up, do you think there is a case for directing more vaccinations to higher infection areas? I ask this also because we're now learning that vaccines don't necessarily prevent the spread of infection. So do you think there is still a case for lowering the age bracket and directing them at states or in districts which have high infection rates?
So as far as scientific evidence is concerned and the programmatic strategy, I still feel that we should first immunize everybody above the age of 45. Our health system should not crack down. It should not get inundated with sick individuals. We should not have fatalities, and that is our first priority. And 40 crore is not a small number. 40 crore immunizations means we need almost 900 million doses. So one can imagine the amount of vaccine required. And we have a finite. We would like to see that these people get immunized by July, August, and for that, I think immediate. And many of the vaccines we are talking about just now may not be available for next several weeks. So I don't think so that we need to change the strategy. We must first see that these people who are more vulnerable, who are susceptible to death and severe disease, should be taken care of. And actually, I would request all my younger colleagues to see that they become a catalyst for immunizing their elders, and themselves very religiously follow the masking issue. Particularly, I think masking is very critical, and then hygiene and washing. These two things are very important.
We are seeing more infections in younger people this time around, and a higher number of severe infections also in younger people. There are now more and more reports of children being affected by COVID-19 as well. Do we need to plan our vaccine strategy accordingly as well?
So, in fact, I think this notion that more younger people are getting positive, right from the beginning, the number of people who were RT-PCR or NAT positive was almost two-thirds in the younger population. That may be 5-10% here and there, but there is no major shift that now a huge number is getting infected who are younger one. Our three seroepidemiology, national seroepidemiologies are also showing that the proportion of individuals in various age bands is very similar. Children below 18 years, between 18 and 45, between 45 and rest of the age, the seropositivity rate is very similar. So that means exposure possibility is very similar, and infection rate is very similar across the age group. It is there that people get more infected. I mean, they are symptomatic, less symptomatic and asymptomatic in the younger age group, but in the higher age group, they are more symptomatic, more severe disease, and likely to die. So, uh, and the second part of your question is about children, you asked. See, children, there is a possibility that they are being picked up more. This requires a very systematic study. There is a possibility that some of the variants or the mutations may make children more symptomatic, but all said and done, the disease is still very mild, and it does not cause, leaving aside an occasional case, this is mostly a mild disease.
Okay. Dr. Arora, another question I have is on adverse effects, and I ask this also in the context of us now taking as a base the nod given by credible institutions around the world like the FDA, EMA, etc. A lot of these bodies keep tweaking their rules as per vaccine administration. The latest was in the case of Johnson & Johnson, where the United States now has tweaked the rules because of fears of blood clots. These cases are being reported in some parts from AstraZeneca as well, and we use a bulk of Covishield. Do you think we need more clarity and transparency on where our own investigation on adverse impact has reached?
So I'm just coming out of the GACS meeting, Global Alliance for Vaccine Safety, and you must be also, I do not know whether you're aware, 6 hours ago, United States and FDA suspended the Johnson & Johnson vaccine because 6 cases with clots and bleeding were identified. So, and the data has also been presented with Pfizer and other vaccines that during trials there were similar cases. So it appears that with COVID, whether it is disease associated or vaccine associated or a platform associated, these events are taking place. India is moving ahead as far as is looking for and investigating AEFIs due to, this is called thrombosis and thrombocytopenia. That means clotting as well as bleeding. And we are in the process. I think our rates are much less, and I think over next few days the results will be available in public domain. So we are very cognizant of these issues, and but at this time we would like to assure that there is nothing of major concern.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Arora, for speaking with us today. Important points made there, especially on the pipeline of vaccines that we can soon expect in India.
Thank you. Bye-bye.